She spilled coffee on the wrong man. Kwon Seoryun never looked at women. Never smiled. Never felt. As Seoul's most dangerous mafia king, emotion was his enemy. But when a Ghanaian delivery girl crashed into him and laughed, instead of begging for mercy, something shifted. He wanted to know her, protect her, own her. But in his world, love doesn't bloom, it bleeds. And when rivals discovered his one weakness, he had to choose his empire or the girl who made him feel human. This is the story of the mafia king who never looked twice until her. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that will break your heart and put it back together. The coffee was already falling before Zuri could stop it. One moment, she was rushing through the marble lobby of the Shilla Hotel, balancing 3 delivery orders and her camera bag. The next, she collided with something solid, and scalding liquid erupted between them like a small explosion. The cup hit expensive fabric with a wet slap, and Zuri watched in horror as dark brown liquid spread across the front of a pristine white suit jacket that probably cost more than her entire year's rent. Time crystallized. She looked up from the ruined silk and met eyes so cold they could freeze blood. The man stood perfectly still, coffee dripping from his jacket onto marble floors that reflected the chandelier light like diamonds. He was tall, impossibly handsome in that sharp, dangerous way that made her think of knife edges and winter storms. His black hair was styled back from a face that could have been carved from ice, all high cheekbones and a jaw that looked like it had never smiled in its life. People around them had stopped moving. The entire lobby seemed to hold its breath. Zuri noticed men in dark suits standing at intervals around the space, their hands moving subtly toward their jackets. The air pressure changed, became heavy with something she couldn't name, but felt in her bones. She should apologize. Grovel. Maybe cry. That's what everyone seemed to expect from the frozen expressions surrounding them. Instead, she heard herself laugh nervously. Well, that's one way to make an impression. Though usually I prefer to introduce myself before redecorating people's clothes. The man's eyes widened fractionally. It was barely a movement, but on that still face it looked like an earthquake. He stared at her as if she'd grown a second head, and Zuri realized with creeping horror that she'd just made a joke to someone who clearly didn't find anything funny ever. "I'm so sorry," she continued, words tumbling out as she grabbed napkins from her bag. I'm really, genuinely sorry. That jacket looks expensive. Really expensive. Like, mortgage expensive. I can pay for cleaning. It might take me several months, but I can pay." She dabbed uselessly at the coffee stain, very aware that she was now touching a stranger who radiated danger like other people radiated body heat. His hand caught her wrist. Not rough, but firm enough to stop her frantic dabbing. His fingers were cold, and she felt her pulse jump against his palm. "Who are you?" His voice was low, accented, with a roughness that suggested he didn't use it often for actual conversation. Zuri Abina. I do deliveries for the hotel restaurant, and I take photographs, and right now I'm apparently ruining the life of." She looked at him expectantly. People around them had stopped moving. The entire lobby seemed to hold its breath. Zuri noticed men in dark suits standing at intervals around the space, their hands moving subtly toward their jackets. The air pressure changed, became heavy with. He didn't answer, just kept staring at her with those unsettling eyes that seemed to catalog everything about her in seconds. His thumb moved slightly against her wrist, whether conscious or not she couldn't tell, but the touch sent an odd shiver through her. "You're not afraid." It wasn't a question, but there was something in his tone, confusion, maybe curiosity. "Oh, I'm terrified," Zuri admitted. "But I panic talk when I'm scared. And make inappropriate jokes. And apparently touch people without permission." She looked pointedly at where she was still dabbing his jacket with a napkin. "So if you could either yell at me or accept my apology, that would really help me figure out what to do with my hands." The corner of his mouth twitched. It wasn't a smile. This man looked like he'd forgotten how to smile sometime in childhood, but it was something. The dangerous pressure in the air eased slightly, and people started moving again, though they gave them a wide berth. He released her wrist. "Keep your money. But your suit is replaceable." He said it like he replaced $1,000 suits every day, which he probably did. "You work here." "Sort of. I deliver food for the restaurant. And I take photos for their social media sometimes." "What? You'll see me again." He said it with absolute certainty, like he was stating a fact about gravity or sunrise. Before Zuri could respond, he turned and walked away, his men falling into formation around him like planets orbiting a dark star. She stood there, clutching soggy napkins, her heart doing strange acrobatics in her chest. A hotel staff member approached, looking worried. "Miss Abina, was that, are you okay?" "Who was that?" The woman's face went pale. That was Kwon Seoryun. She said the name the way people say ghost, or plague, or the end of everything. Zuri had lived in Seoul for 2 years, working 3 jobs to support her photography dreams and send money home to Ghana. She'd heard the name in whispers, seen it in news articles that never quite said what he did, but everyone understood anyway. Kwon Seoryun, the Ice King of Seoul's underworld. The man who controlled half the city's criminal empire without ever raising his voice or his hand. He had people for that. Oh, Zuri said faintly. Oh no. He said you'll see him again? He did. I don't know if that's very good or very bad for you. Zuri looked at the coffee stain on the marble, already being cleaned by staff who'd appeared from nowhere. Me neither. 3 days passed. Zuri tried to forget the encounter, to convince herself it was a weird blip in an otherwise normal life. She delivered food, took photographs of Seoul's street markets for her portfolio, video called her mother in Accra, and pretended everything was fine. On the 4th day, Seoryun appeared at the cafe where she worked her afternoon shift. He sat by the window, perfectly still in another expensive suit, this one black, and watched her take orders and make drinks. Zuri's hands shook as she steamed milk, very aware of his presence like a cold spot in a warm room. He didn't order anything, just sat there for 2 hours, his security team making other customers nervous enough to leave early. When her shift ended, she walked straight to his table. This is creepy, she said bluntly. Whatever this is, it's creepy. Sit. He gestured to the chair across from him. I prefer standing when being stalked. Thanks. You're not being stalked. Then what do you call appearing at my workplace and watching me for 2 hours? Interest. The single word fell between them like a stone in still water. Zuri's breath caught. Up close, in better light, she could see things she'd missed in the hotel lobby. The faint scar along his jaw, the exhaustion shadowed under his eyes, the way he held himself like a man who'd forgotten how to relax. Interest in what? She asked carefully. You. Why? I don't know. He said it like the admission cost him something. You're different. Different how? Different like I'm Ghanaian in Seoul? Because I hate to break it to you, but there are actually quite a few of us here. Different like you're not afraid of me. Different like you laughed. He leaned forward slightly. People don't laugh around me. They bow or they run. Maybe they're smart. Are you smart, Zuriabina? Smart enough to know this conversation should end, but not smart enough to walk away. It wasn't a taunt, just an observation. His eyes tracked her face like he was reading a book written in a language he'd just learned. Zuri pulled out the chair and sat. She told herself it was because her feet hurt from the shift, not because something in his tone made her want to understand what he wasn't saying. What do you want from me? She asked. To talk. Mafia kings don't just want to talk. I'm not just a mafia king. Then what are you? He was quiet for a long moment, looking out the window at Seoul's neon-bright streets. I don't remember anymore. The honesty in those words cracked something in Zuri's chest. She'd expected threats or propositions, or the kind of dangerous charm she'd been warned about. Not this quiet admission of lost identity from a man who looked like he could break the world with one hand. Tell me about Ghana, he said suddenly. Why? Because I want to know where you learned to spill coffee so efficiently. Was that a joke? Zuri stared at him. And yes, there it was again, that microscopic twitch at the corner of his mouth that might have been humor in a different life. So she told him. About growing up in Accra, about her grandmother's garden, about learning photography from a neighbor who'd traveled the world. She talked about the food she missed, the heat, the way Ghanaian churches sang like joy was the only emotion worth having. She didn't know why she was telling him these things, but he listened with an intensity that made her feel like every word mattered. You're homesick, he observed. Every single day. Why stay? Because I'm building something here. A life. A career. You can miss home and still make a new one. Can you? He asked it like a genuine question, like he'd never considered the possibility. Can't you? I don't have a home. I have territory. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. His eyes snapped to hers, sharp and dangerous for a moment. Then the danger faded, replaced by something that looked almost like wonder. No one has ever called anything about me sad. Then no one's been paying attention. They talked until the cafe staff started cleaning up around them, shooting nervous glances at Seoryun's security team. Zuri learned that he took his coffee black, hated small talk with everyone except apparently her, and had been running his organization since he was 19 when his father was killed. He learned that she was terrible at Korean verb conjugations, took her coffee with too much sugar, and dreamed of having her photographs in a real gallery someday. When they finally left, Seoryun's car pulled up, a black sedan that probably cost more than the cafe building. Can I drive you home? He asked. Absolutely not. Why not? Because I have functioning survival instincts. You're sitting in a cafe with me for 3 hours. But a car ride crosses the line? The cafe is public. Your car is not. He nodded like this made perfect sense. Tomorrow then. Tomorrow what? I'll see you tomorrow. I don't think. You will. He said it with that same certainty, and walked away before she could argue. Zuri watched the car disappear into Seoul's traffic, her mind spinning. This was dangerous. He was dangerous. Everything about this situation screamed warning. So why was she already looking forward to tomorrow? Tomorrow became a week of tomorrows. Seoryun appeared everywhere, at her cafe shifts, near the photography studio where she took weekend classes, once at the market where she bought groceries. He never touched her, never threatened, just showed up and asked questions like her life was the most fascinating story he'd ever heard. This has to stop, she told him on day 8, as they sat on a bench near the Han River. People are starting to notice. Your people. Other people. Let them notice. You don't understand. I'm trying to build a life here. A normal life. And you're complicated, he supplied. That's a nice word for dangerous. I won't let anything hurt you. You say that like you control the whole world. In Seoul, I control enough of it. Zuri turned to face him fully. The evening light caught his profile, softening the harsh lines into something almost beautiful. Who are you really? Under all the power and fear, who is Kwon Seoryun? I don't know if there's anything under it anymore. I don't believe that. Why not? Because you keep showing up. Because you listen when I talk about stupid things like photography and my mother's cooking. Because you asked me what happiness feels like, and when I told you it felt like sunlight, you looked at me like I'd spoken a language you wanted to learn. She paused. That's not nothing under the surface. That's someone trying to dig his way out. His hand moved toward hers on the bench, stopped just before touching. You see too much. Or maybe everyone else doesn't see enough. Zuri. He said her name carefully, like he was tasting it. I don't know how to do this. Whatever this is. Do what? Feel something without wanting to control it. Care about someone without turning them into a possession. Then learn. How? Start by not following me everywhere like I'm a target. You are a target. The words came out rough. The moment I started showing interest, you became one. Lee Tae-sik already knows about you. His people have been watching. Zuri's blood went cold. What? My rival. He thinks you're leverage. Seoryun's jaw tightened. He's right. Then why keep coming? Why make it worse? Because I can't stop. It was the first time she'd heard real emotion in his voice. Frustration, maybe, or desperation. I've tried. For 3 days after I met you, I tried. But you're the first person in 10 years who made me feel human instead of empty. That's not fair, Zuri whispered. You can't put that on me. I know. He finally closed the distance, his hand covering hers. His touch was cold but gentle, and Zuri felt her heart betray every smart instinct she possessed. I know it's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. But I can't. I don't know how to go back to not knowing you exist. Seoryun, I have guards on you. 24 hours. You won't see them, but they're there. Zuri jerked her hand away. You what? To keep you safe. You had me followed? Without asking? Without. Anger flooded through her, hot and sharp. That's not protection. That's control. That's exactly what you said you didn't want to do. Zuri. No. She stood, backing away. No, you don't get to do this. You don't get to insert yourself into my life and then make decisions about my safety without even telling me. I'm not one of your possessions or territory or whatever you want to call it. That's not what I think you are. Then what am I? He stood too, and for the first time she saw something crack in his composed facade. You're the first good thing I've wanted in a decade. You're the first person who makes me want to be something other than this. He gestured at himself like his own existence was an insult. But I don't know how to want something without consuming it. And I don't know how to protect something without controlling it. So yes, I put guards on you without asking, because the alternative was watching you die when Tae-sik decides you're useful leverage. That's not love, Zuri said, and she could hear her voice breaking. That's not even close to love. I know. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. I don't know what love is, but I know I think about you every moment I'm awake. I know I see you in everything, in coffee shops and photographs, and the way sunlight hits the river. I know I would burn my entire empire if it meant keeping you safe. And I know that's probably not love. That's probably some twisted version of obsession, but it's the closest thing to caring I've felt since I was a child. Tears burned in Zuri's eyes. I can't be the thing that teaches you how to be human again. That's too much weight. I'm not asking you to teach me anything. I'm asking you to let me try. By stalking me, by controlling my life, by keeping you alive long enough to figure out how to do this right. And if I say no, if I tell you to leave me alone, his face went blank, all the emotion draining out of it like water from a broken cup. Then I'll disappear. But the guards stay until Tae-sik loses interest or I can neutralize the threat. I want them gone. They stay. Seoryun. This is not negotiable. Steel entered his voice, the Mafia King rising back to the surface. You can hate me. You can never speak to me again. But I will not let you die because I was too weak to stay away and too proud to protect you properly. They stared at each other across 3 feet of distance that felt like miles. Zuri's heart was breaking for reasons she couldn't fully articulate. For him, for herself, for whatever they might have been if he'd been someone else or she'd been stronger. I need time, she finally said. I need to think. Take all the time you need. He turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, you were right. About there being something under the surface. You found it. No one else has even looked. Then he walked away, and Zuri stood alone by the river, watching the lights reflect on water and wondering how she'd become the protagonist in a story she never wanted to be part of. 2 weeks of silence. Zuri saw the guards now that she knew to look. Professionals who blended into crowds but never quite looked away. She hated it. Hated the loss of freedom, the constant surveillance, the reminder that Seoryun had made decisions about her life without consulting her. But she also understood it. That was the worst part. Understanding that in his world, affection was ammunition and caring was vulnerability. Understanding that he'd given her probably the only kind of protection he knew how to give. She still hated it. On day 15, her favorite cafe exploded. Zuri was running late to her shift, 2 blocks away, when the blast ripped through the morning. The sound was enormous, primal, a physical thing that knocked her off her feet. She hit the pavement hard, ears ringing, as debris rained down and people screamed. When she could see again, the cafe was a burning shell. The place where she would have been making coffee, where Seoryun had first sat and watched her like she was a puzzle he needed to solve, gone. Just smoke and flames and shattered glass glittering on the sidewalk like deadly diamonds. Strong hands pulled her up. One of the guards, his face grim. We need to move. Now. The cafe, people were empty. We cleared it an hour ago. Bomb threat called in to police. How did you move? He was already pushing her toward a car, and Zuri's brain was too scrambled to resist. They drove to a building she'd never seen, upscale and anonymous. The guard escorted her to a penthouse apartment that screamed expensive minimalism, all clean lines and cold surfaces. Seoryun was there, talking rapidly in Korean on his phone, and when he saw her his expression did something complicated. He ended the call. Are you hurt? No, I was late, the guard said. Zuri's hands were shaking. People could have died. No one died. We evacuated everyone first. How did you know? Taesik is predictable. He sent a message last night that he wanted to negotiate. This was his opening move. Show me he can reach you anytime. By blowing up a cafe? By blowing up your routine. Your safety. Your sense of security. Seoryun moved closer, but didn't touch her. He's trying to prove I can't protect you. Can you? Yes. Absolute certainty. But not if you keep fighting me. Zuri sank onto the couch, adrenaline giving way to exhaustion. This is insane. This whole thing is insane. I just wanted to live my life, take my photos, send money home, and maybe fall in love with someone normal like a teacher or a shopkeeper or literally anyone who doesn't have rival gangs blowing up buildings. I know. Do you? Do you really know what you've done to my life? Yes. He knelt in front of her, and the position was so unexpected that Zuri's breath caught. Kwon Seoryun, the Ice King of Seoul, on his knees in front of her. I know I've destroyed your peace. I know I've made you a target. I know if I was a better man, I would have walked away after that first day. Why didn't you? Because I'm selfish. Because I'm broken. Because you looked at me like I was human, and I've been chasing that feeling ever since. Zuri reached out, touched his face. He flinched like the gentleness hurt. What do we do now? I end this. I end Taesik. I rebuild the agreements he broke, and I make sure you're never a target again. And then I still want to know you. To see you. To learn how to be whatever you need me to be. His hand came up to cover hers. But I understand if that's not possible anymore. It's probably not, Zuri admitted. This is too much. You're too much. Your world is too much. I know. But I can't stop thinking about you either. The admission felt like surrender. Even when I'm angry, even when I'm scared, I think about you. About the way you listen like my words are important. About how you asked what happiness feels like because you genuinely didn't know. About the fact that you're a terrible person by any objective measure, but somehow I still. She stopped. Couldn't say it. Still what? His voice was barely audible. Still care what happens to you. His eyes closed like she'd struck him. When they opened again, there was something vulnerable in them that made her chest ache. I don't deserve that. Probably not. But I'll take it anyway. I'll take whatever you're willing to give, and I'll try to be worthy of it. What if you can't? Then I'll fail knowing I tried. They stayed like that for a long moment, her hand on his face, his covering hers, while sirens wailed in the distance and Seoul burned in small ways around them. I have to go, he finally said. Deal with Taesik. Secure the territory. Make sure this doesn't happen again. Will it be dangerous? Yes. Will you? She couldn't finish the question. I'll come back. He stood, and the movement broke their connection. Stay here. My people will guard you. Don't leave until I send word. How long? As long as it takes. He walked to the door, and Zuri heard herself call out, Seoryun. He turned. Come back alive, and then we'll figure out if we can make this work. Is that a promise? It's a maybe, which is more than you deserve. I'll take it. And then he was gone, leaving her in his cold apartment with guards outside and the smell of smoke in her clothes. The war lasted 3 days. Zuri learned about it in pieces, from news reports that talked around the violence, from the tight-lipped guards who changed shifts outside her door, from the way the city seemed to hold its breath waiting for something to break. On day 2, a woman arrived. She was beautiful in that sharp, expensive way, designer clothes, perfect makeup, the kind of confidence that came from inherited power. She looked at Zuri like an insect on her shoe. So you're the delivery girl. Her English was perfect but cold. I'm Hanyura. The name clicked. Zuri had seen it in a news article about engagement announcements. Seoryun's fiancé. Arranged by our families when we were children. Useful for business. Meaningless for love. Yura sat with perfect posture. He's never looked at me the way his men say he looks at you. I'm not trying to. I don't care what you're trying to do. I care that you understand what you're asking him to give up. Alliance with my family means protection from 3 major organizations, trade routes through half of Asia, political connections that keep him out of prison. She smiled like a knife. What do you offer? Coffee stains and photography. I offer him being human. Humanity doesn't keep you alive in his world. Then maybe his world needs to change. Yura laughed, but it wasn't kind. You think you can change him? Make him soft? People have tried. They're all dead. I don't want to change him. I want him to remember he's more than what he does. That's the same thing. Yura stood to leave. When he comes back, if he comes back, he'll choose the alliance with me, which keeps him powerful and alive, or whatever fantasy he's built around you. Choose poorly and people die. Maybe him. Probably you. Is that a threat? It's a fact. In this world, love is weakness. He's forgotten that. You're helping him forget. She paused at the door. I almost admire you. Almost. But admiration doesn't stop bullets. After Yura left, Zuri sat in silence, her mind churning. Everything the woman said was probably true. Seoryun's interest in her was dangerous. To him, to his organization, to her own life. The smart thing would be to run when this was over. Return to Ghana, start again. Forget the Ice King who'd briefly melted for her. But she kept seeing his face when he'd said he didn't remember what he was under all the power. Kept hearing the wonder in his voice when she'd called him human. On the 3rd day, he returned. Seoryun looked like hell, bruised, exhausted, with a bandage visible under his torn shirt. But alive. He met her eyes across the apartment and stopped moving, like the sight of her was a physical blow. It's done, he said quietly. Taesik is dead. His organization is scattered. The other families have agreed to neutrality. You're hurt. Not badly. Let me see. She moved toward him, and he let her carefully lift his shirt. There was a bandage along his ribs, some bruising, maybe more underneath. You need a doctor. I have doctors. Then why are you here instead of with them? Because I needed to see you breathing. His hand came up to cup her face. I needed to know you were safe. I'm fine. The guards were very effective. Zuri covered his hand with hers. Yura came to visit. His whole body tensed. What did she say? That loving you would get us both killed. That you have to choose between alliance with her family and whatever this is with me. That I'm weakness you can't afford. She's not wrong. About which part? Any of it. He stepped back, his hand falling away. I spoke with her father. Ended the engagement formally. It will cost me trade routes, protection, political connections I've spent a decade building. Seoryun. I don't care. His voice was fierce. I don't care what it costs. I'm not marrying someone I don't love for power I don't want anymore. You can't mean that. I burned everything, Zuri. 3 days of fire and blood, and the whole time all I could think about was getting back to you. Seeing your face. Hearing your voice. You made me feel something I thought died when I was 19, and I won't go back to being empty. He moved closer again. So yes, I'm choosing you over power. I'm choosing being human over being untouchable. And I know it's probably the wrong choice tactically, and I know it might get us killed, but I can't. I don't know how to want anything else anymore. Zuri felt tears slide down her face. That's the most beautiful, stupid thing anyone's ever said to me. Is it enough? I don't know. Honest, raw. I don't know if we can make this work. If your world will let us. If I'm strong enough for what being with you means. Then we'll find out together. He pulled her close, carefully because of his injuries, and Zuri let herself lean into him. He was cold as always but steady, and she felt his heart beating too fast against her cheek. What happens now, she whispered. Now I rebuild. Smaller, maybe. Less powerful. But sustainable without the alliances I broke. He pulled back enough to look at her. And I try to be whatever you need. A friend. A partner. Someone learning how to love without consuming. That's going to take time. I have time. And if I need space? If this gets too intense, then you tell me and I give you space. No guards. No following. Just waiting until you're ready. You do that. I'd do anything for you. That's the problem and the promise. Zuri laughed wetly. We're insane. This whole thing is insane. Probably. I should run. Go back to Ghana. Start over somewhere you're not. You should. He said it like agreement, but his arms tightened fractionally around her. But I hope you don't. Why? Because I love you. The words came out rough, unpracticed, like a language he'd never spoken. I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't know if what I feel is what other people call love. But when I think about my life without you in it, everything goes cold again. And I don't want to go back to cold. Seoryun. You don't have to say it back. You don't have to feel anything. Just stay. Try. Let me learn how to do this. Zuri pulled back to look at him fully. This dangerous, broken man who'd somehow become essential to her. I do feel something. I don't know if it's love yet, but it's something big and terrifying, and I think about you constantly even when I shouldn't. Is that enough to stay? For now? But Seoryun, if this gets too dark, if your world tries to swallow me, I'll leave. I have to protect myself too. I understand. And I'll help you. Even if it means protecting you from me. They stood together in his cold apartment, while Seoul moved on outside. Two people trying to figure out how to build something warm in the spaces between violence and normalcy, between power and humanity. It wasn't a happy ending. Not yet. But it was a beginning. 6 months passed like learning a new language. Slow, frustrating, with moments of unexpected fluency. Seoryun was true to his word. He rebuilt smaller, stepped back from the worst of his organization's activities, tried to be present without being possessive. He failed sometimes, letting old habits of control resurface, but he recognized it faster each time and apologized in his stilted way. Zuri kept her jobs, her photography, her independence. She set boundaries, and he respected them. Slowly, carefully, they built something that looked almost like a normal relationship. Dinner dates, long conversations, moments of quiet warmth between the complicated realities of who they were. Her mother called one evening while she was at Seoryun's apartment. You sound different, sweetheart. Happier maybe, but also worried. What's happening in Seoul? Zuri looked at Seoryun, who was reading in the corner, his usual cold expression softened slightly by concentration. I met someone, Mama. Tell me about him. He's complicated. He's been through things that left marks. He doesn't know how to love easily, but he's trying. Do you love him? I think so. I'm scared too, but I think I do. Then love him scared, baby. Sometimes the best things in life come with fear attached. After she hung up, Seoryun looked at her with questions in his eyes. My mother says I should love you scared, Zuri said. Are you? Scared. Terrified. But still here. Still here. He set his book down and crossed to her, movements careful like he was approaching something precious. I'm scared too. Every day? That I'll fail you. That my past will destroy this. That I'll wake up and you'll realize you can do better than a reformed criminal who doesn't know how to be soft. You're learning. Because you're patient. 6 months passed like learning a new language. Slow, frustrating, with moments of unexp. Because you're worth it. She kissed him gently. Most of the time. He smiled. Actually smiled. Full and genuine. And it transformed his face into something young and almost carefree. These moments were rare enough to be precious, and Zuri stored it in her memory like a photograph. I have something for you, he said, and pulled out a folder. Gallery opening. Next month. They want to show 20 of your photographs. Zuri's heart stopped. What? How did you? I showed them your work. They called you 3 weeks ago. She had missed a call from an unknown number, assumed it was spam. Seoryun, you can't just, that's my career, my dream, you can't manipulate. I didn't manipulate anything. I showed them photographs that were brilliant and they agreed. They've been trying to reach you. Call them back. He touched her face. I'm not trying to control your success. I just wanted to help you reach for it. Zuri called. The gallery owner was real, enthusiastic, had loved her work without knowing anything about Seoryun's involvement. It was real. Her dream, finally manifesting. Thank you, she told him later, tears streaming down her face. Thank you for seeing my work as worth something. It was always worth something. I just helped other people notice what I saw from the beginning. They made love that night, slow and careful, mapping each other's scars, his physical ones from violence, hers invisible ones from displacement and fear. Afterward, lying in his arms, Zuri felt something settle in her chest. Not quite peace, but close. An understanding that imperfect love was still love. That broken people could build something whole together if they were willing to try. I love you, she said into the darkness. His arms tightened around her. Say it again. I love you, Kwon Seoryun. Your coldness and your warmth. Your terrible history and your attempts at a better future. All of it. She felt moisture on her shoulder and realized with shock that he was crying. Silent, restrained, but unmistakably tears. I didn't think anyone would ever say that to me, he whispered. Not really. Not meaning all of me. I mean it. I love you too. More than I knew I could love anything. They fell asleep like that. Two people who'd found each other in unlikely circumstances and decided to stay despite every reason not to. The gallery opening was beautiful. Zuri's photographs lined white walls, Seoul street markets, the Han River at sunset, portraits of people she'd met during deliveries. Her mother flew in from Ghana, and meeting Seoryun was everything Zuri had feared and hoped for. Her mother studied him with sharp eyes while they stood in front of a photograph of children playing in Hongdae. You're the one making my daughter smile in her voice when we talk. I try to be, Seoryun said carefully. His English was accented but clear. You're also the one making her scared. Yes. Are you going to hurt her? Not intentionally. But my life is complicated. There are risks. I'm not asking about risks. I'm asking about intentions. Will you protect her? Respect her? Let her be herself even when it's inconvenient for you. Yes. To all of it. Even when I fail, I'll keep trying. Zuri's mother looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. That's all I can ask. Love is about trying, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Later, when her mother pulled Zuri aside, she said, He's dangerous, that one. But he looks at you like you hung the moon. Just make sure you keep your feet on the ground while he's looking up. I will, Mama. And if he ever hurts you, you'll fly to Seoul and handle it personally? Exactly. The night was perfect. Critics praised her work, people bought prints, and Seoryun stood in the back of the gallery watching her shine with something like pride on his usually impassive face. When she caught his eye across the room, he mouthed, Told you. She mouthed back, Show off. His smile was small but real. 3 months after the gallery opening, reality intruded again. A rival organization, one Seoryun had thought neutralized, made a move for territory. It wasn't Taesik's level of violence, but it was enough. A reminder that Seoryun's past wouldn't simply evaporate because he wanted a different future. I need to handle this, he told Zuri over dinner at her apartment. It might take a few weeks. Maybe longer. How dangerous? Manageable. But I won't lie. There's always risk. Zuri set down her fork, her stomach nodding. I hate this part. I hate that violence is just a reality we live with. I know. But I also know you. You won't let them hurt innocent people. You'll find the cleanest solution possible. You have a lot of faith in me. Because you've earned it. Slowly, frustratingly, but you've earned it. He reached across the table for her hand. If something happens to me, don't. Zuri, listen. If something happens, there's money set aside for you. Clean money, not from the organization. Enough to go home, start over, whatever you need. I don't want your money. I want you alive. I know. But I need you to know you'll be okay either way. She gripped his hand hard enough to hurt. You come back to me, Kwon Seoryun. You handle whatever needs handling and you come back. Because I just found you, and I'm not ready to lose you yet. I might never be ready. I'll come back. He lifted her hand to his lips. I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep. Then I promise I'll try. Is that enough? It has to be. The next morning he left for Busan. and Zuri threw herself into work to avoid thinking about all the ways violence could end things. She picked up extra delivery shifts, spent long hours at the photography studio, video called her mother daily. The apartment felt too empty without Seoryun's quiet presence, and she hated how much she'd come to depend on him. 2 weeks passed. Seoryun called when he could, brief conversations that told her he was alive but gave few details. She could hear exhaustion in his voice, stress he wouldn't admit to, and it made her chest ache with helpless worry. "I miss you," she told him on one call. "I miss you too. More than is probably healthy. When you get back, let's do something normal. Boring. Let's go to a terrible movie and eat too much popcorn and complain about the plot holes." "That sounds perfect." Seoryun: "Yes. I'm proud of you. For trying to handle this cleanly. For being different than you were." Silence on the line. Then, "Thank you. That means more than you know." On day 16, her phone rang at 3 in the morning. Zuri answered with her heart in her throat, expecting the worst. "It's done." Seoryun's voice was rough but alive. "Negotiated settlement. No bloodshed. I'm coming home. When? Tomorrow. Can I see you? You'd better." He laughed, and it sounded like relief. "I love you, Zuriabina. I love you too. Come home safe." He did. When he walked into her apartment the next evening, Zuri threw herself at him hard enough to make him stumble. He caught her easily, burying his face in her hair. "I'm okay," he murmured. "I'm here. You kept your promise. I'll always try to." They didn't make it to the bedroom, just held each other on the couch while Seoul hummed outside. Seoryun fell asleep with his head on her shoulder, and Zuri stayed awake, memorizing the weight of him, the reality of him alive and whole and here. This was her life now. Fear and joy tangled together, violence always lurking at the edges, but love holding them in the center. It wasn't the life she'd imagined when she moved to Seoul, but it was hers. Theirs. And she wouldn't trade it. A year after they met, Seoryun made a decision that changed everything. "I'm stepping back," he told Zuri in his apartment, the same cold space that had become warmer over months of her presence. Not completely, but significantly, letting someone else run day-to-day operations. "Why?" "Because I'm tired. Because I want a life that isn't constantly on the edge of violence. Because you showed me there's more to existence than power and survival." He pulled her close. "Because I want to build something with you that isn't poisoned by what I do." "Who's taking over?" "Someone I trust. Someone who's been with me since the beginning and understands the balance I'm trying to maintain. Power without unnecessary cruelty. Control without corruption." "And you think they'll maintain that?" "I think they'll try. And I'll still be involved enough to guide things. Just not consumed by it." Zuri studied his face, seeing the exhaustion there, the hope, the fear that she might not believe him. "What will you do instead?" "I don't know yet. Something legitimate. Maybe real estate, or investments, or..." He smiled slightly. "Maybe I'll become a photographer's assistant. You'd be terrible at it. Probably. But I'd be there." "Seoryun." She cupped his face. "Are you sure? Power is all you've known since you were 19. Can you really walk away?" "I'm not walking away completely. Just stepping back far enough to breathe. Far enough to have something resembling a normal life with you. And if you hate it, if you miss the control, then I'll deal with it. But I'd rather try and fail than never try at all." They sealed the decision with a kiss that turned into more, desperate and tender in equal measure. Afterward, lying tangled together, Zuri whispered, "I'm scared this won't work. That your world will pull you back. I'm scared too. But I'm more scared of losing you because I was too afraid to change. What if I'm not enough? What if normal life with me isn't enough to replace what you're giving up?" He turned her face to his. "I'm serious. You are enough. You've always been enough. The problem was never you. It was me not believing I deserved this. Deserved you. Deserved happiness. And now I'm starting to believe. You're teaching me." Zuri felt tears prick her eyes. "You're a good student. I have an excellent teacher." The transition took months. Seoryun extracted himself carefully from operations, shifting power, ensuring stability. There were tense moments when old rivals tested the new structure, when violence threatened to erupt, and Zuri held her breath waiting for news. But each time, Seoryun navigated it without becoming the man he'd been, without sliding back into the cold ruthlessness that had defined him. Zuri watched him change in small ways, sleeping better, smiling more, engaging with the world like a person instead of a weapon. He joined her at photography events, met her friends, learned to be social without constantly calculating angles and threats. It wasn't seamless. He still sometimes looked at people with that analytical coldness, still occasionally reverted to control when stressed. But he caught himself faster, apologized when he overstepped, kept trying. They moved in together, a new apartment that wasn't his fortress or her cramped studio, but something they chose together. Zuri filled it with photographs and plants, warmth and life. Seoryun bought furniture that was comfortable instead of expensive, learned to cook Ghanaian dishes from videos so he could surprise her with tastes of home. "You're getting domestic," she teased one evening, watching him struggle with Kantameyer stew. "Is that bad?" "It's adorable." "I am not adorable. You're standing in my kitchen with an apron on, sweating over soup, because you want to make me happy. That's adorable." He scowled, but it was softened by the smile he couldn't quite hide. "I hate you." "No, you don't." "No, I don't." The stew was terrible, too salty, wrong texture, but Zuri ate it anyway because he tried. That was the theme of their relationship. Trying, failing, trying again. Imperfect attempts at building something neither of them fully understood, but both wanted desperately. 18 months after the coffee spill, Zuri's mother visited again. She stayed for 2 weeks, and Seoryun endured her scrutiny with patient grace. By the end of her visit, Zuri's mother pulled her aside one final time. "He's different than I expected," she admitted. "Different how?" "Gentler. More human. When you described him, I pictured a monster trying to be a man. But he's just a man who was forced to be a monster and is trying to remember how to be himself. Is that okay? That he's who he is? Baby, you love him. He loves you. He treats you with respect, makes you happy, and works every day to be better than he was. That's more than most people manage." She squeezed Zuri's hand. "But keep your eyes open. People can change, but they can also slide back. Just make sure you love him with your eyes open." "I do, Mama. I promise." 2 years after the coffee spill, Zuri was offered a position teaching photography at a prestigious Seoul university. It was everything she dreamed: stability, recognition, the chance to shape young artists. She accepted immediately. Seoryun took her to dinner to celebrate at an absurdly expensive restaurant that made her laugh because he was trying so hard to mark the occasion. "You didn't have to do this," she said, looking at the menu where prices weren't even listed. "I wanted to. You earned this. We should celebrate more reasonably. This is too much. Nothing is too much for you. See, that's the Mafia King talking. Regular people celebrate with pizza and beer. We can have pizza and beer for breakfast tomorrow. Tonight, let me spoil you." So she let him. They ate elaborate courses, drank wine that tasted like bottled sunshine, and talked about the future in ways that felt real instead of hypothetical. Seoryun told her about a legitimate business investment he was considering, something clean that would give him purpose without the darkness. Zuri described her plans for the teaching position, the students she'd mentor, the difference she hoped to make. "I'm happy," Zuri said suddenly, surprising herself with the realization. "Actually, genuinely happy. I didn't think that was possible here. I thought I'd always be a little bit displaced, a little bit homesick, a little bit wrong for this place. And now I'm building a home. Here. With you. It's not the life I imagined, but it's better in ways I couldn't have predicted." Seoryun reached across the table, taking her hand. "You built it. You changed me, changed us, changed what was possible. I was empty before you. You were surviving. Same thing." He paused, then, "Marry me." Zuri's brain stuttered to a halt. "What? Marry me? Not now necessarily, but someday. When you're ready. I want to build this life with you officially. I want everyone to know you're mine, and I'm yours. I want—" He stopped, struggling with words. "I want forever with you, Zuriabina. However much forever we can get. That's the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. I'm bad at this. Terrible." But she was smiling through tears. "Ask me properly." He actually got out of his chair and knelt beside the table, and the entire restaurant went silent watching them. Seoryun looked uncomfortable with the attention, but pushed through it. "Zuriabina, you spilled coffee on me and laughed. You saw something human in me when I'd forgotten it existed. You've been patient with my failures, celebrated my progress, and loved me when I didn't know how to love back. You've made me want to be better than I was, better than I thought I could be." He pulled out a ring, simple, elegant, with a small diamond. "Will you marry me?" Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you? Yes. The word came out as a sob. Yes, you ridiculous, dramatic, reformed criminal. Yes. He slid the ring on her finger and kissed her while the restaurant applauded. When they finally pulled apart, Zuri was crying in earnest. I love you, she said. I love you so much it's stupid. I love you too. Stupidly. Completely. Forever. They left the restaurant engaged, and Zuri called her mother immediately to share the news. Her mother cried, blessed them in Chui, and made Seoryun promise to take care of her daughter or face maternal wrath. I promise, he said solemnly. I will spend every day trying to be worthy of her. See that you do. The wedding was small, family and close friends at a venue overlooking the Han River. Zuri wore a dress that combined Ghanaian Kent cloth with Korean silk, a fusion of her two homes. Seoryun wore a traditional Korean hanbok, and when he saw her walking toward him his composure finally cracked. He cried openly, not caring who saw, and Zuri cried too because this impossible man had somehow become hers, and she had somehow become his. They said vows they'd written themselves. Seoryun's were halting but sincere. I promise to keep trying. To keep choosing you. To keep being better than I was. You taught me what love feels like, and I'll spend my life showing you what love looks like when it's trying its best. Zuri's were simpler. I promise to see you. All of you. The cold and the warm, the broken and the healing. I promise to stand beside you while you keep becoming who you want to be. I promise to love you through every failure and celebrate every success. I promise to build this impossible life with you, one day at a time. They kissed as husband and wife, and Seoul's skyline glittered behind them like a promise of its own. 3 years after the coffee spill, Zuri published her first photography book. The launch was held at the same gallery that had first shown her work, and Seoryun stood in the back again, watching her shine. A reporter approached him. You're Kwon Seoryun, right? The businessman. He'd successfully transitioned his public image. Most people now knew him as a legitimate investor, if they knew him at all. The criminal empire he'd built was run by others, and while he maintained enough influence to protect what mattered, he was largely removed from day-to-day operations. Yes, he said carefully. And that's your wife? The photographer. Yes. How did you two meet? Seoryun smiled, and it was genuine and warm. She spilled coffee on me. Best accident of my life. The reporter laughed, thinking it was a cute anecdote, not knowing the whole truth. Not knowing about the blood and fear and violence that had surrounded their beginning. Not knowing about the man he'd been or the transformation Zuri had sparked. Later, when they were home, Zuri asked, do you ever regret it? Stepping back? Choosing this quieter life? Never. He pulled her close. I regret what I was. I regret what I did. But I don't regret choosing you over power. Not for a second. Even when it's boring. When we're just normal people living normal lives. Especially then. Normal is a gift I didn't know I wanted until you showed me it was possible. They stood together in their apartment, surrounded by photographs and evidence of the life they'd built. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments when Seoryun's past surfaced, when old instincts threatened to drag him back. There were still moments when Zuri felt the weight of loving someone complicated, someone whose history included violence she couldn't fully understand. But they were trying. Every day, they were trying. And that had to be enough. For years after the coffee spill, Zuri got a job offer in Ghana. A prestigious photography position at the University of Ghana, teaching the next generation of African photographers. It would mean leaving Seoul, leaving the life they'd built, leaving the safety of the familiar. Take it, Seoryun said immediately. But, Zuri, this is your dream. Teaching photography in your home country? Showing young artists they can make it? Take the position. What about you? Your businesses are here, are mobile, or expandable to Ghana, or I find new things. He cupped her face. I'm not letting you pass up your dream because I'm tied to this place. We'll figure it out. You'd move to Ghana? I'd move anywhere with you. So they did. The transition took a year of planning, securing visas, establishing business connections, selling the Seoul apartment, and buying a house in Accra. Seoryun studied Chui with the same intensity he'd once studied enemy organizations, and Zuri watched him build a life in her homeland with the same determination he'd used to dismantle his criminal empire. Ghana welcomed them. Zuri's mother was overjoyed to have her daughter home. The university position was everything Zuri had hoped. And Seoryun, surprisingly, thrived. He invested in local businesses, worked with entrepreneurs, found purpose in building things instead of controlling them. "You're happy," Zuri observed one evening on their veranda, watching an across sunset paint the sky orange and gold. "I am," he admitted, sounding slightly surprised. "I didn't know I could be this content." "That's growth, baby. That's you." He pulled her into his lap. "You showed me this was possible, that I could be more than what I was made into. You did the work. I just loved you while you did it. That's everything." He kissed her softly. "Your love is everything." 5 years after the coffee spill, almost to the day, Zuri was running late to a lecture at the university. She rushed through the campus, juggling her camera bag and lecture notes, not watching where she was going. She collided with someone solid. Coffee erupted between them, déjà vu so perfect it stole her breath. She looked up, apology already forming, and met Seoryun's eyes dancing with mischief. "You still ruin my clothes," he said, looking at the brown stains spreading across his shirt. "You jumped in front of me." "Did I?" He grinned, full, unrestrained, the smile of someone who'd finally learned how to be happy. "Maybe I wanted to recreate a special moment." "You're ridiculous." "I'm in love." "That too." She kissed him, tasting coffee and laughter. 5 years. Best 5 years of my life. Even with the coffee? Especially with the coffee. Students streamed around them, some recognizing Professor Abina and her husband, others just seeing two people in love standing in the morning sun. None of them knew the whole story, the darkness they'd started in, the violence that had surrounded them, the impossible transformation that had brought them here. That was okay. The whole story was theirs alone. Zuri looked at Seoryun. This man who'd been a monster and become human, who'd chosen love over power, who'd followed her halfway around the world because she'd shown him that life could be warm instead of cold. "Same time next year?" she asked. "Another coffee spill for old time's sake?" "Absolutely. It's become tradition. You know people will think we're weird. Let them." He pulled her close, not caring about the coffee or the crowd or anything except the woman in his arms. "I learned a long time ago that the best things in life look weird from the outside. And from the inside. From the inside, they look like love." They walked together toward her lecture hall, hands intertwined, leaving coffee-stained pavement behind them. Ahead lay classes and investments, photography and business, a life built deliberately from the ruins of what they'd been. It wasn't the fairy tale ending where everything was magically perfect. They still fought sometimes, still struggled with his past and her expectations, still had to work at being together. But they kept trying, kept choosing each other, kept building. And really, that was the truest kind of love. Not the easy kind that fell from the sky fully formed, but the hard-won kind that you constructed day by day, choice by choice, coffee spill by coffee spill. 5 years since she'd crashed into him and laughed instead of cowering. 5 years since he'd looked at her and felt something human stirring in his chest. 5 years of transformation and growth and learning how to love when neither of them had known how to start. Not a perfect ending, just a real one. Just love, trying its best. If you enjoyed Seoryun and Zuri's journey from that fateful coffee spill to their new life in Ghana, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment telling me which moment touched you most, and subscribe for more emotional romance stories that will keep you captivating. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more stories about love, redemption, and second chances. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.